just started at Queen Mary. Yeah, sorry. I just started at Queen Mary University of London. So yesterday was my first day of my classes. So these people, they have a welcome week wherein they have all of these seminars, they welcome you, you get to know your profs personally. And there are a lot of events that happen, different orientations, freshers. So last week was my freshers week. Yesterday I had my first class and it's been going really well. I have another class in the evening and we're studying different things, which honestly, it's very new to me, but I'm very open to learning all of that. In terms of my journey, it was very smooth starting from the Delhi airport. I mean, my first stop was Starbucks, as I'm sure would be a lot for a lot of people. After that, so I took Virgin Atlantic and everything was very smooth. But then after I landed here, I was down with COVID along with my family. So my parents came to drop me here. So that was a bummer, but I think I mean, the first 1 week of isolation was pretty bad for us because we weren't expecting that, we land here and right then we're going to be hit with COVID because back in Delhi for 2 years, there's not a single place that I did not visit, whether it was theaters, parties, markets, anywhere and everywhere. I went everywhere. But right when I came here, I was hit with COVID. So, I mean, that was downer. But now when I go out, I mean, from tomorrow onwards, that's 27th of Jan, the masks are going to be removed, the tubes are working just as fine, the cars are there. So everything's normalizing at a very high rate over here, at a very fast pace, I would say.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask about, how your journey has been, because we did get to hear that I think you were also infected with Omicron. But before that, I'm sorry, we began and I'm sure, we explained that you're speaking to us from London, but a lot of people are not familiar with your educational background. And I also know that this is your second master's degree. So how about, we start with a little small introduction of yours, and then we'll go into the details of, how your journey has been. Yes.
Well, so I had science in school and I've always studied in Delhi. I was born and brought up in Delhi and I'm a DU product and my undergrad and my master's both happened from DU. So my undergraduation was in economics honors. That was from Hindu College. And my master's was in economics, again from Delhi University. That's Delhi School of Economics. So this right now is going to be my double master's. Hopefully I'll be completing it by the time I turn 25. So I'm 24 right now.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Now I'll swiftly move back to that discussion because the pandemic is going on, and well, you are one of those person who actually, did not stop and carry forward with your journey. You moved to London, one of the places which has been hit badly with cases. And because of this same reason, a lot of people, have sort of stepped back from their pursuing their higher education. A lot of people, who's people who had their dream destination. London was their dream destination, but then they still, they're deferring their programs and not going ahead. So what advice do you have to give to them? I mean, you're not just speaking from somebody who's, thought of it, but you've actually done it now and you're there, you've experienced, you've been through that journey. So what advice do you have, what would you want to share to people who are, sort of deferring their programs?
I mean, that is something I would really not recommend because back when I was home, I was facing the same issues. Everybody amongst my friends, my family kept on telling me that, why are you so okay with going to London right now? Because UK is the COVID hub. However, I feel that you will always face some issue or the other. Life will always keep throwing some, problems at you. But the point is, you really have to do what you have to do. So coming to London and studying management was something I've been planning for a very long time. And this is something I really wanted to do. That's another reason why I particularly took in the Jan intake instead of the September intake, because you never know what the COVID situation is like. And considering a lot of things, I mean, now when I am actually here because people back home, all they get to see is the news. They get to read the newspapers, how bad things are. But once you're here, it's really not that bad. People are going to offices, people are going everywhere. Restaurants are open, clubs, bars, universities, everything, name it, and it's open. So, I mean, considering that, I really don't see why anybody should stop themselves from getting a higher education if they really wish to.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I could you also walk us through, was it a difficult process, shortlisting the universities, and was it a difficult process once you get selected? How about the accommodation? A lot of people are also unaware about how the accommodation system works within the campus and outside the campus, if you could, also, just help them explain how things work out there.
Well, selecting the university was not hard for me at all because I was a DAG student and DAG helped me throughout my process. Thank you for that. And they helped me select my course based on my previous knowledge of, what I have being an economics student, where I would stand out. And they shortlisted my skills, where I would be good, where I would, just be better than other people, because I think it's all about standing out, separating yourself out from the crowd. So DAG helped me out with my course selection, my colleges and everything. Then, wait, what was your follow-up question?
Accommodation and how that journey has been. Yes.
So DAG did put out some options. So I mean, with accommodations, there are always two options. You either go for the hostels, which are a unique accommodation. So they're on the campus itself. You don't really have to travel a lot. But it's still a private accommodation. It's not on campus. However, it's hardly like a 15-minute walk from here.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Also, guys, a quick update. As I, go into further conversation with Ashmita here, if you guys have any doubts or if you have any question, the chat box is open for you guys. You can put in your questions and we can later on open this round for the question, for question answer round as well. Or maybe we could, do this simultaneously as we go on with the questions. So the chat box is open. You can put in your questions down there. Ashmita and I would be, would love to answer those and address your queries as well. So you mentioned here that you picked up the January intake. However, yours was a very fast journey. You've gone from one master's to another. I remember the time before COVID when you had visited our office. I think it was hardly a month of journey, and the visa process and the admission process is very, very swift for you. Weren't you scared, that everything is happening so quick? You willingly were absolutely fine with choosing a January intake instead of a September intake. A lot of people, are worried the difference between intakes as well, and they prefer September over January intake. So what is your take on that?
Honestly, for me, considering my education, like when it comes to my education, it's always been about opportunities rather than hindrances, because there's always going to be some hindrance to the other. However, I really wanted to be done with my masters, my double masters, by the time I turned 25 or 26. And considering the COVID situation, everything is so uncertain at this point. So waiting out for another year and then seeing that, oh, maybe things might work out, might not work out, really wasn't the point. I didn't see any point in that. Plus, considering I am in a university which is a part of the Russell Group, it's one of the top universities here. So I mean, why not? So that was one of the major turning points for me when I decided, because I had no plans of coming abroad. But then considering how things panned out for me, everything went on very smoothly. So here I am.
Would you like to share some of your experiences apart from masters? I think, well, I know a little about you, and with this time frame that we've been together, I think I've got to know that apart from your education, you also continued. You didn't stop. I think you were learning some other language as well. You carried on with your journey, and you took you took us one step ahead while networking about the jobs as well. So let's first talk about how your journey has been uh, while you were applying into these colleges, how you continued with upskilling yourself.
Well, a lot of people, I mean, as far as I've seen amongst my group of friends, just sit at home and they keep applying here and there to certain universities. Although I would really not recommend that, because I mean, you only have 24 hours in a day, right? So I was doing this course, it's called the Spanish course. It was a 1.1 level from Instituto Cervantes. It's in New Delhi itself. It's a Spanish embassy. Because okay, fine, you're applying to places and you might just get there, but why not just utilize the time that you have on your hands right now? Which is why I even went for this summer school back in 2017. That was in France, because I personally feel getting a worldwide experience in terms of education just adds to your CV, as I think we're all facing every day, that what does a CV have? What should it have? That's an issue that all of us 20 to 26-year-old face these days. Considering the jobs, I think that is something that's very hyped up these days because all the students here, they do a part-time. It could be in the hospitality industry, accountancy, could be anything, administration jobs. Although one thing that I've noticed is that bookkeepers are very, they paid very highly here in terms of a part-time. So the normal, I think, minimum wage is around £9 an hour. However, the bookkeepers are paid around 14 to 18, which is almost double. So that's one thing I really wanted to put out, that if anybody is from an accountancy background, they should definitely go for bookkeeping. And there are a lot of websites. There's this website called Read. There's this website called Indeed. So you could be sitting at your home in Delhi or wherever you are in India and, applying to places in London for your part-time. So, I mean, that's pretty easy that way. I mean, considering me, I never thought that I would be working with DAG. So I am working as a UK chapter head for DAG right now. I very recently started. And I mean, this is an overseas job for me, but this is something I never thought I'd be doing, sitting in London, working for a company that's in, India right now, expanding, obviously. So that's there.
So I have something to add here, although this was supposed to be a surprise for a lot of viewers here. And but then now that you've opened up the surprise, so let's come out in a very big way as well. This is something that I've witnessed. I've always come across two kinds of people, and I'll tell you which category you fall into. The two kinds of people have, two different mindsets. One is a very positive and a success conscious kind of a person, and the other one is usually, who's very negative minded and would, first look at what are going to be the negative outcomes and will tend to find more reasons why it's not going to work. However, you in your journey, it has been a very as much as you've loved working with us, we've equally, or in fact, we felt more gratified working with you, because you've never challenged us with any of the, queries that whether I'm going to land up with a job or not. And look how it turned out for you, because I think you started networking. A lot of people are skeptical that you're an economic student, so I'd like to hear, that economic perspective on this as well, because people come and they share that in this COVID scenario, lockdown is going on, people are losing jobs, moving to a foreign city, moving to for a foreign education overseas. Will we be able to land up a part-time job? However, you never looked at looked at this concept from a very negative perspective. I was amazed with your zeal. I was amazed with, the amount of effort you were willing to put in, instead of, thinking about the negative outcomes. You just went on. And thank you for sharing that. Read and Indeed, these are the websites that are there for lookout for jobs. I think a lot of viewers would, benefit from here. It's just an undiscovered thing, so a lot of people are scared, because in India we do have options for it, in foreign we don't have. So thank you for sharing that. And on that note, I would come up with my big news. So congratulations, Ashmita, for finally joining us.
So
Now
much.
she's leading the UK. She's the UK chapter head. And well, that is one of the major reasons why she's joined. So DAG has not just expanded its wings within India, it's also now a UK, I mean, chapter has already started. She's leading, and she's one of the founding members of that. And see, guys, how it turned out for her. She was never worried whether she's going to land up a job, and in fact, she's still. I mean, she went on the extra mile. She looked for a part-time job. As soon as she landed, she had this option and she had this offer of DAG. So thank you so much. We're also very graced and very humbled that you've joined, and a big congratulations at this point of time to you and to DAG as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sanjay.
Yes. And how does it feel? I mean, you're just 24, pursuing your second master's. How does it feel like to be a chapter head there? Did you ever thought, that that it's going to land up and everything is going to fall at place? How do you feel right now?
Honestly, never, because I've always been someone who's been at home, just going through my everyday things. But again, I've always been someone who's wanted to learn new things. So speaking to Saga sir, speaking to you, speaking to a lot of other people at DAG, I've always wondered as to how it really works out, how, you work, how things fall into place. And I mean, here I am finally working with DAG and it feels great. And I'm learning so much. And I think that is what it's really about, because every day when I've been going to college, there are people from so many different fields. There are people from engineering, hotel management, people from accountancy, people from Shanghai who've studied so many different things. So, I mean, that's what I think it all, boils down to, what you're learning and from where you're learning. So, I mean, that's great.
Thank you. I would again, let's, sort of clear some doubts for people. I want, a lot of, I think you are one of that source that could clear a lot of myths, because sometimes when you explain it sitting from India, it's difficult. But when you've actually been there, it becomes easy to believe in that. A lot
Mhm.
of people also feel that moving to London, because it's the second most expensive city after, Paris. So what do you have to say, about that? Is studying there expensive? Was it cost effective because you voluntarily picked up UK over any other country? And so, what about this? How much has it cost you? A little insight into that.
Well, honestly, for me, I mean, any day go for a UK education rather than going to US, Canada, Australia, anywhere else. Because I mean, considering the history and everything, these people, the Britishers, they have been the pioneers of education in terms of anything and everything. And for courses that are about management, that's what I'm doing right now. They have a say where other people don't really have that. And well, my course costed me around 26,000 GBP, which is approximately 26 lakhs. That was the tuition fee. And apart from that, London is expensive, but it's really about how you spend, where you spend. Because living in Delhi, Delhi could be the most expensive place, but it also could be the most economical place. So, I mean, considering that, the degree here, what I am doing right now, I personally feel it's very cost effective because the perks and the product that eventually you turn into after your graduation, I don't think it's at par with other places.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So, how about let's tone down and keep it a little cash. I would also like to know that you share some of your experiences, because you said that as soon as you landed in UK, you visited a lot of places. I'm sure a lot of people who haven't been there are really eager to know how it actually is, how the people there, the architecture of it. So, London Eye is one of the most famous places there to witness as a tourist. So, share, you could share any particular story that you vividly remember.
Well, I think I've never enjoyed walking before I landed in London, but here, at least, I mean, I think I complete about 12 to 15,000 steps every day because the weather is so nice. It's usually sunny. I mean, for me, it has been sunny, luckily. And London Eye, so I was staying at this hotel, which was about a kilometer from the London Eye. And that was for, I think, 4 or 5 days. I visited London Eye every day because the central London area, the London Eye, the Tower Bridge, that area is beautiful. So for people who are just coming out, that's one of the places that you definitely should visit. Then there's a place called Soho with all the new restaurants, bars, and I think that's something that all the college going students would definitely want to explore.
Well, thank you, London Eye, noted. Yes, one most frequently asked question is, people are also worried whether they'll have that opportunity to have physical classes overseas, and specifically talking about London. So, and I believe you do have a class at, I think you just have a
Yeah.
class. Yes. How are the classes? How the module is? How they've adopted? You also mentioned that now, I think sooner, but very soon, they're also removing masks out there. So, what do you have to say about how the
So they
classes
came
function?
out. Yeah, so they came out with the news 27th of Jan, which is tomorrow. They're going to be removing masks everywhere. Even right now, it's just the public transport, the tubes and the cabs where we're supposed to be wearing the masks. But from tomorrow onwards, even that's going to be scraped off.
Mhm.
And I think Britishers are not scared about COVID. And that I think that's one thing that I definitely learned something from because back at home, we were all very scared to step out, to go here, to go there. But here, people are doing their everyday chores, they're going to work, they're doing everything that they can to keep things normal, and things are getting normal, they're getting normalized. I just got done with the class at 11 to from 11 to 1, and I have another class 5 to 7, and they're all offline classes. We get to meet the professors, we have these tude groups, seminars. So I mean, I don't really think there's anything to worry about now because COVID's going to be there whether you want it or not, and the mutations are going to keep coming. But considering your education, this is something you should really do for yourself, and things are genuinely normalizing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Also, before we start with the question answer round, I think that I can come up with my last question is, and my most favorite one, what significant difference you've noticed between, how the education, the teaching methodologies here, studying in London, how it's different from what you've studied here?
Well, considering this is my master's, so I think I would like to draw a line, like a parallel between the master's there and the master's here. So it's just been two classes that I've had until now, but one major thing that I've genuinely very, significantly seen here amongst the professors is that they interact a lot with you. The sessions here are very interactive. So I think that's one thing that you learn a lot from, because obviously your professors are very reputed people who've studied from very reputed places and worked here and there. Back in Delhi, my professors, I'm sure they were very great, and I've been to the best schools, and I will never put that down. But the sessions weren't interactive, which I'm getting here. And obviously, the worldwide education, because I met people from Shanghai, I met this girl from Cambodia. So, very different places, you get a very varied, opinion. Even when you're in groups and you're working in seminars, you have a group of 5 to 6 people. So I have my partner who's from Greece right now. So you get to work from a lot of different perspectives. That's something you will never get back at home.
Right, right. So, can you particularly, I mean, now that you've spoken about the diverse cultures that you've been introduced to, so was making friends a difficult factor here? And I'm coming and asking this question from that perspective because a lot of people, sort of limit their colleges and they come with very geographical constraints, thinking that we don't know anybody out there. How are we going to survive? So how would you respond to this question? Has it been difficult for you making friends, and how has it been for you there?
Well, it's very funny how I chose a college where I particularly did not know anybody. And I wanted that because, back at home, you're one person. When you come here, you have this opportunity to mold yourself into this completely new person. So, the more new people you have around you, the more new traits you learn from them, and the newer you can make yourself into a different personality. So, I would just say that don't be scared of making friends. I mean, you'll eventually make friends, whether it takes 2 days, a week, 10 days, but you will eventually have your own clique at your college. So that's something that's really not to be worried about, because there are so many events, orientations, freshers that you could attend, and you obviously get to know people. So one thing that I would just give out an advice on is that don't stay in. Just go out, get to know people. Even if it's a random lady on the street, just get in a conversation with her, because people here, you learn a lot of different things from them. So that's it.
Okay. And I think we can also sort of connect the dots, the kind of infrastructure and healthcare support that, UK offers. Because as soon as you landed there, you got hit with COVID. So, I mean, I think, and you look absolutely fine and healthy. So, was there any, difference that you felt that, okay, so they are, really, really sound with the kind of their health wise, support that they offer to their own people there?
Well, considering COVID, so there's the National Health Service here, which is called the NHS, and you're supposed to enroll yourself. You have to fill up a form, and I'm sure all the passengers do it. So the moment we all tested positive, we got calls almost every second day, considering how we're feeling, if we need any help. Even, I mean, this was very shocking for me in a good way, obviously. So my mother got a call, considering she's 50 now, and they asked her that, do you have any support in London? If you do not, we can provide a person who's going to live with you in your isolation time, so that you don't feel the, mental depression. And I think a lot of people face that during COVID. So that's something that is just not a role play here, because you won't be facing that. So the government really looks after you.
That's wonderful. I think because not just having a physical health support, but also the supporting your mental health, and that's
Exactly.
wonderful. Yes, and this is something I think we could also learn something from it. So all in all, in a nutshell, asking from you, would you suggest going to London and studying there, and what are your major takeaways from this?
Considering how happy I am at the moment and how much I'm learning every minute of the day with very new people, very varied set of people, I would definitely say it's a go for me. And I would obviously recommend other people to think about it, to go ahead and, research where you want to study, why. But I personally feel London's a great place because it provides you the education, it provides you the culture, the technology is obviously there, the government's very supportive. I mean, there's always a tick, tick, tick in every box. So, I mean, why wouldn't you want to come here?
Well, wonderful, wonderful. It has been lovely hearing you. And well, you're very, very patient in answering some of those questions were a little generic also, but I think these are the generic questions which most people are highly bothered about. And this is something that we often hear. But then I think, yes, from somebody who's already experienced it, I think coming it from there, the authenticity is really increased. So, all right, guys, I would also like to take your questions. I hope that you have benefited from this session. And if you guys have any questions or anything that we have particularly missed out or you would want to hear, so we are happy to answer those questions. And if Ashmita, if there is anything that you would add from your experience, if anything, any insights or any experience that you would want to share, well, I think we've pretty much covered everything. But if there's still anything that you personally feel like you want to add, you're always welcomed for it. And candidates, you guys can also put in your questions in the chat box. Yeah. Okay. Uh, so somebody has asked here. I can see a few questions. Okay. The visa process, people have asked that, did you face any rejection? Was it, a bit difficult? And I think, yes, this is a very valid question, which I missed out.
I think this is
That, yes,
something that everybody wants to know.
yes.
Well, so I initially thought of applying for the standard visa, but then I spoke to Sagar sir and he recommended that, at a time like this, you should definitely be going for a priority visa. So that's what I did. And I got my visa within, I think, 6 to 7 working days. So that worked out pretty well for me. So no issues there.
No issues there. It was absolutely a smooth ride. And
As smooth as it could have been.
yes, and that too, I think January when it was the peak for Omicron as well, and you faced no hindrances, no challenges while
So
boarding the flight and all of these things.
I flew out on the 6th of Jan, 6th morning, and I think that was the peak time for Omicron. But considering that, things were very smooth at the airport, the immigration, everything was very smooth. So no complaints there.
All right. Also, I can see because nowadays a lot of this, news is also flowing. People are familiar. Our audience is familiar about the Brexit and all, but I think UK has also recently announced about its immigration policies, and somebody has particularly asked. Uh, I think they are worried whether they're going to get a post-study work visa or not. A lot of people fly to Canada for the same reason, but you picked up UK. So what do you have to talk about? What do you have to say about that? How are the post-study work visa opportunities? What are the opportunities available to you out there?
Well, I would just initially like to start with it, considering while I'm a student and there are a lot of part-time job opportunities. So considering that, once you graduate from a renowned university, I really don't see why that should be an issue, considering that your grades are good and, your rapport with your teachers is well enough, because sometimes they do contact the teacher. Sometimes they obviously see your grades and, they see your qualification, because I have a lot of friends in Central London universities who got done with their courses recently, September or Jan, and they're all working here now. So that's really not going to be a problem, considering that your grades are going to be good.
Is there any trick that you can have? It's very early for me to ask because I think you're still adapting with how UK
That's true.
education
That's true.
works, and we are sort of more familiar with the mugging up concept here, but I think it's very, very different, right?
It is very different because so I've only had very introductory classes with all of my professors, but they did tell us about what the assessment process is going to be like. So we've had the profs telling us that you have to write an essay or a group work. So they I mean, I think their major priority here is to teach you how to, work in groups. Considering I will be doing my management, so I have to learn how to manage different areas in a group. So one person will be doing this, one person would be doing that. So considering all of that, the teaching method is very different, but I think it's more practical, because the more practical it is, the more you're going to be using it in your jobs every day-to-day life.
Right, right. So I think we've pretty much covered all the topics here, because I can see one or two questions somewhat which has been previously answered, which I have already answered. I mean, I had already asked and you've already answered. So I think now we can, close this question answer round as well. We've covered up all the topics. With that being said, thank you so much, Ashmita, for being present here. I also have to be very, very careful that you have got your class coming up, and I don't want to miss out. I don't want you to miss out on anything. So thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. And thanks a lot for everybody who's joined here. I can see, I mean, I'm not going to name everybody who's joined here because then it would be a very long night. So thank you everybody for being a part of this session, for being a part of this journey, for being a part of Ashmita's journey, and now who's become, yes, it has become our journey as well. A big kudos and thank you so much. A very big congratulations for starting your journey as a UK chapter head with Direct Admission Group. And thank you for sharing your insights. Yes, I think we can stop the recording now.